My 9-year-old son was left outside the water park while my parents walked in with my brother's family using the VIP passes I paid for. Mom texted, "We chose the kids who matter. Yours can wait by the gate." 7 days later, their perfect little family trip started falling apart. Rune's swim goggles were on his forehead when my mother walked past him. Blue silicone, adjustable strap, the goggles he had chosen at Academy Sports the week before, adjusting the strap 3 times in the aisle because the fit matters to a 9-year-old who is cautious about water and wants the seal tight so nothing gets in. And the tightness is the boy's version of control over an activity that makes him nervous and that he was willing to try because his mother told him the water park would be fun and his mother does not lie. We were standing at the entrance of Lone Star Splash, the VIP gate, the gate you walk through when you have a wristband, and I had bought 8 wristbands, $185 each, $1,480 total on my Visa. 8 wristbands for 8 people. Me, Rune, my mother Desta, my father Breck, my brother Wilder, his wife Josette, and Wilder's 2 kids. 8 wristbands in a clear plastic bag that I had handed to Desta in the parking lot because Desta asked to distribute them at the gate so the kids all get them at the same time, which sounded like coordination and turned out to be selection. Desta opened the bag at the gate. She put a wristband on Breck's left wrist. She put one on her own. She handed 2 to Wilder for his kids. She handed 1 to Josette. She put 1 on Wilder's wrist. 6 wristbands distributed, 2 remaining in the bag. The 2 remaining were for me and Rune, and the 2 remaining stayed in the bag. And the bag stayed in Desta's hand, and Desta's hand walked through the VIP gate without stopping, without turning, without looking at the 9-year-old standing 3 feet behind her with swim goggles on his forehead and a towel over his shoulder, and the expression of a boy who is watching his grandmother walk away from him into a place he was told he was going. The gate attendant held up her hand. "Ma'am, your son needs a wristband. My mother has them. She just walked through." The attendant looked through the gate. Desta was 30 feet past the entrance, walking toward the VIP cabana area with Breck on her left and Wilder's family on her right, and the plastic bag in her hand with 2 unused wristbands inside it. The wristbands she had chosen not to distribute, and the not distributing was not a mistake. The not distributing was the plan. I called Desta. She answered on the second ring with the background noise of a water park, the sound of splashing and music, and the mechanical hum of water slides operating at capacity. And the sounds were the sounds of a place my son was supposed to be inside of and was instead standing outside of. "Mom, you have our wristbands. Rune and I are at the gate. We have 6. Maris, the cabana fits 6. We chose the kids who matter." "The kids who matter?" "Mom, I paid for 8 wristbands, $1,480, on my card, for the whole family, including Rune, and 6 of them are being used by people who will enjoy them. Your 2 are in the bag. Pick them up at the front desk if you want, or go home. The cabana fits 6. We're 6. The call ended. Desta ended it. The ending was the click of a woman who has made a decision and does not require agreement from the person who funded the decision. Because the funding is separate from the deciding, and the deciding is Desta's and the funding is mine, and the distance between the 2 is a VIP, gate, and a 9-year-old with goggles on his forehead and a towel he had picked out himself at Target because the towel had dinosaurs on it, and the dinosaurs were green, and green is Rune's favorite color, and the favorite was specific, and the towel was chosen, and the boy who chose it was standing outside a gate that his mother paid to open. I looked at Rune. He was standing next to me, with his towel over his shoulder and his goggles still on his forehead, and the look on his face that 9-year-olds get when the adults in their life have done something the boy cannot explain, and the not explaining is louder than the water park behind the gate. He did not ask why. He did not cry. He adjusted his goggles. The adjusting was the nervous habit, the same 3 adjustment sequence he does when he is processing something, and the processing was visible in his hands, and his hands were telling me that the boy understood he had been left at a gate, and the understanding was heavier than the goggles, and the goggles were the only thing he could adjust. Then the text arrived, family group chat. From Desta, sent at 10:22 a.m. Visible to Breck, Wilder, Josette, Aunt Corinne, and Aunt Peg. We chose the kids who matter. Yours can wait by the gate. Wilder's kids are swimmers. Your kid sits on the edge and whines about the cold. We are not wasting a VIP pass on a boy who will not go in the water. Next time, raise a child who participates instead of one who watches. The cabana fits 6. We are 6. The math is not complicated, Maris. I read the text once. The second time was for the screenshot. I screenshotted it. I saved it. I took Rune's hand. I walked to the car. I put the towel in the back seat. I buckled his seatbelt. I got in the driver's seat. I put the key in the ignition. And I drove home with a boy whose goggles were still on his forehead because taking them off would mean the trip was over, and the boy was not ready for the trip to be over because the trip had never started. Rune asked one question on the drive. Mom, why did Grandma say I do not matter? She did not say you do not matter. She said she chose other kids, and her choosing was wrong. And her choosing is going to cost her more than the wristband she kept. Welcome to Karma Unfolded, where the person who buys the wristbands decides who wears them, and the grandmother who chose the kids who matter is about to learn which kid's mother matters most. If your parents have ever left your child at a gate and walked in with someone else's kids using passes you paid for, subscribe now, because the receipt is in my name and the 7 days start tonight. My name is Maris Egan. I am 32 years old. I am a dental hygienist at River Oaks Dental in San Antonio, Texas. I clean teeth, take x-rays, apply sealants, manage preventive care schedules, and explain to patients why flossing is not optional. My salary is $62,000 a year. My family calls my job cleaning teeth, as if the teeth clean themselves, and the woman who maintains oral health for 200 patients a month is just holding a polisher and waiting for the timer to beep. My coworker Fen is 44. She has been a hygienist for 19 years. She sits in the operatory next to mine and has heard every family story I have told over our shared lunch breaks for 6 years. She is the person who said, the Monday after the water park when I showed her the screenshot, you put their teeth on your plan. You paid for every cleaning, every filling, every crown. And the woman whose teeth you covered told your son he does not matter. Pull the coverage, Maris. Let them find a dentist who takes patients whose daughter they leave at the gate. When I told Fen about the goggles, she set her coffee on the break room table and looked at me for 5 seconds without speaking. Fen has a son who is on the spectrum. Her son took 3 years to learn to ride a bicycle because the bicycle required balance, and balance requires trusting the ground, and the ground was something her son needed to measure before he trusted it. Fen understands what it means to have a child who takes time. Fen understands that the time is not whining, and the measuring is not weakness, and the edge of the pool is not a failure. The edge of the pool is where careful children stand before they decide, and the deciding is the bravest part, and the bravery is invisible to people who measure courage in cannonballs. The goggles were still on his forehead when you got home. He did not take them off until we walked through the apartment door. That is a boy who was ready, Maris. That boy was ready to swim. And your mother left him at the gate. The favoritism is not new. It is the architecture of the family. Wilder has been the favored child since he was born, the son after a daughter, the boy Breck wanted and Desta delivered, and the delivery was the event that reorganized the family's priorities around a boy who would carry the name and a girl who would carry the support. When Wilder graduated college, Desta threw a party with 80 guests and a catered dinner. When I graduated from dental hygiene school, Desta said, "Good, now you have a job," and changed the subject to Wilder's internship. When Wilder married Josette, Desta and Breck contributed $12,000 to the wedding, when my ex-husband left and I filed for divorce. Desta said maybe next time choose someone who stays, and the choosing she referenced was not the husband, it was me. The fault of the leaving was assigned to the woman who was left, because the woman who was left is the daughter who cleans teeth, and the cleaning is not enough to hold a husband or a family's respect or a VIP wristband at a water park gate. My ex-husband, Cade, moved to Colorado 3 years ago. He sends child support on the 15th of every month, $780. And the $780 is the only contribution he makes to Rune's life, because the contributing requires presence, and Cade's presence is in Denver, and Rune's presence is in San Antonio, and the distance is 929 miles, and the miles are Cade's, and the boy is mine. What my family does not know is what I fund. Dental coverage for Breck and Desta. I added them to my employer dental plan 3 years ago when Breck's individual plan expired, and the replacement quote was $380 a month, and the $380 was more than Breck's retirement income could absorb. My employee plan covers dependents at $120 a month, additional premium. 3 years. $4,320 in premiums. The coverage has paid for Desta's biannual cleanings, Breck's root canal, Desta's crown, and 2 fillings for Breck. Total dental services received by my parents on my coverage, approximately $4,200 in procedures, paid for by the plan that is funded by the hygienist whose son was left at the gate. Swim lessons for Wilder's kids, $200 a month for 14 months. $2,800. Wilder told me last year that his kids needed competitive swim coaching, and the family rate for 2 children was $200 a month. The coaching produced 2 children who are swimmers, which is the word Desta used to justify excluding Rune, and the swimming was funded by the aunt whose son was told to wait at the gate while the swimmers walked through. I funded the swimming. The swimming was used to exclude my son. The funding produced the exclusion. Car maintenance for Breck, prepaid Jiffy Lube plan for oil changes, tire rotations, and annual inspections. $480 a year for 2 years. $960. Because Breck does not budget for maintenance, and the maintenance does not happen without the daughter's prepaid card. The VIP wristbands, $480. Already documented. Total invisible support, $4,320 dental, plus $2,800 swim lessons, plus $960 car maintenance, plus $1,480 wristbands. $9,560. From the woman who cleans teeth to the family that told her son he could wait by the gate. Rune is 9. He is cautious, not fearful. Cautious, the difference is that fearful children do not go to the edge of the pool. Cautious children go to the edge and stand there and look at the water and process the depth and the temperature and the number of people already in it and make a decision based on data. And the decision sometimes takes 2 minutes and sometimes takes 10 and sometimes takes the entire first day of a trip. And the deciding is not whining. The deciding is a boy with a careful brain doing what careful brains do, which is measure before moving. The measuring is the intelligence, the moving is the courage, and the time between the two is the patience that Desta has never had for the grandson she does not understand. Rune cannot do a cannonball. He cannot dive. He cannot swim a full lap without stopping to grab the wall. But Rune can float. He learned to float last summer in the apartment complex pool on a Sunday afternoon in August, when the pool was empty and the water was warm and the boy was ready. I held his hands and he lay on his back, and the holding lasted 4 minutes before he let go, and the letting go was the bravest thing I have seen a person do. Because the letting go was a boy trusting the water to hold him, and the water held him, and the holding was the first time Rune understood that the water was not the enemy. The water was just water, and the boy was just a boy. And the boy could float. Rune can also tread water for 45 seconds. He can go under and come up with his eyes open if his goggles are on. He can jump from the edge into chest-deep water if he can see the bottom. These are not cannonball skills. These are not competitive swim skills. These are the skills of a boy who is building a relationship with water one step at a time. And the steps are small, and the time is slow, and the relationship is real. And the relationship would have continued at Lone Star Splash if a grandmother had distributed 8 wristbands instead of 6. Desta does not know about the floating. Desta was not at the apartment pool in August. Desta was at Wilder's house watching his kids do cannonballs into the backyard pool. The pool that costs $14,000 and that Desta references every time she talks about her grandchildren. Because the pool is proof that Wilder's family is the family that matters, and the mattering is measured in pool size and cannonball height and the specific volume of a splash that a grandmother photographs and posts, and captions my water babies while the other grandchild, the one who floats quietly on his back in an apartment complex pool, is not photographed and not posted and not captioned. Because floating is not a cannonball, and quiet is not a splash, and the apartment pool is not the backyard pool, and the mattering requires volume. The 7 days. Day 1 Sunday, I filed a credit card chargeback with my bank for $1,480. The dispute form asked for the reason. I wrote, purchased 8 VIP wristbands for Lone Star Splash Water Park. Only 6 were distributed to my party. I and my dependent child were denied entry despite being listed on the purchase. Services not rendered to cardholder and cardholder's dependent. The bank assigned a case number. The chargeback would take 7 to 10 business days to process. The $1,480 would return to my card, and the water park's records would show that the purchase was disputed by the person who made it, which is the person who was left at the gate. Day 2, Monday, I called my HR department. I requested removal of Breck and Desta Egan from my dependent dental plan, effective immediately. The HR coordinator confirmed that dependent removal could be processed within 1 pay cycle. The next pay cycle was Friday. By Friday, Breck and Desta's dental coverage would show terminated in the provider system. The termination would be visible the next time either of them checked into a dental office, which for Desta would be Saturday, day 7. At her biannual cleaning appointment at Bright Smiles Dental on Fredericksburg Road, I almost left the dental coverage active. Dental care is health care. Breck's teeth are not optional. Desta's crown was necessary. The coverage was not a luxury, but Rune's goggles stopped me. They were on the kitchen counter where he had put them when we got home from the parking lot. The goggles still on his forehead when we walked through the apartment door, because taking them off was the admission that the trip was over. And the admission happened at the kitchen counter when he pulled them off and set them down, and the setting down was the sound of silicone on formica, and the sound was quieter than a cannonball and louder than anything Desta has ever heard. Day 3, Tuesday, I canceled the swim lesson payments. $200 a month. The swim academy would contact Wilder about the lapsed payment. The swimmers whose swimming was used to justify excluding my son would learn that the swimming was funded by the aunt, whose son does not matter. I almost kept the swim lessons running. The lessons were for children. Children deserve lessons regardless of what their grandmother did. But the text stopped me. Your kid sits on the edge and whines about the cold. My son sits on the edge because sitting on the edge is how cautious children enter water, and the entering takes time, and the time is not whining. The time is courage in slow motion. And the woman who called it whining funded the lessons that produced the swimmers who walked through the gate while my son stood outside it. The lessons were my money producing the comparison that was used to exclude my son. Day 4, Wednesday, I canceled Breck's Jiffy Lube prepaid plan. $480 a year. The next oil change would be at retail price. And the retail price would be the first automotive expense Breck had paid in 2 years, and the paying would be the shape of a daughter's support removed. Day 5, Thursday, I opened the extended family WhatsApp. 22 members, aunts, uncles, cousins across San Antonio and Houston. I uploaded 2 images. The first, Desta's text, "We chose the kids who matter. Yours can wait by the gate." The second, the Visa receipt for 8 VIP wristbands, $480, charged to Maris Egan. I typed 1 line, I paid for 8. She used 6. My son waited at the gate with goggles on his forehead while the family walked in. I almost did not post it. The extended family WhatsApp is the family's public square. Posting Desta's text to 22 people was exposing the favoritism to every aunt, uncle, and cousin who has ever sat at a holiday table and suspected the imbalance but never seen it documented. The documentation would change the family's understanding of Desta permanently. But Rune's question stopped me. Why did Grandma say, "I do not matter"? The question deserved an audience larger than the 6 people in the cabana. The question deserved 22 people who could read the text and decide for themselves which kids matter. The responses came in waves. Aunt Corinne, I am reading this correctly? She left a 9-year-old at the gate? Aunt Peg, with passes Maris paid for? A cousin in Houston, Desta? Is this real? Desta did not respond. Wilder did not respond. Breck did not respond. The silence was the silence of a family branch that has been exposed and whose defense requires words they do not have, because the screenshot is the screenshot, and the receipt is the receipt, and the gate is the gate, and the boy with the goggles is the boy who was told he does not matter. Welcome back to Karma Unfolded. If you are the mother who paid for the wristbands and was left at the gate while the family that calls your son a non-swimmer walked in using your money, hit subscribe. Because Day 5 has 22 people reading the text and Day 7 has a dental appointment that is about to be declined. Day 7, Saturday, 2 p.m. Desta arrived at Bright Smiles Dental on Fredericksburg Road for her biannual cleaning. She checked in at the front desk. The receptionist entered her information. The system returned a flag, coverage terminated. Dependent removal processed. Effective date, previous Friday. Desta was informed that her cleaning would be $180 at retail price. Her crown follow-up, scheduled for next month, would be $400 at retail. Any future work, fillings, root canals, crowns, would be at full retail without insurance. Desta asked who terminated the coverage. The receptionist said she could not disclose the policyholder's information, but the termination was processed through the policyholder's employer. The policyholder's employer was River Oaks Dental, where Maris Egan works, and the policyholder was Maris Egan. And the termination was the daughter pulling the teeth coverage from the mother who told her son he does not matter. Desta did not get her teeth cleaned. She drove to my apartment. She arrived at 6:40 p.m. with Breck in the passenger seat and the face of a woman who has just been told that the dental plan she has used for 3 years has been terminated by the daughter she left at a gate. The knock was sharp. 2 knocks. The knock of a woman who does not believe she should have to knock because the apartment is beneath her, and the knocking is beneath her, and the daughter inside is beneath her, but the door is closed and the door requires knocking, and the knocking is the first thing Desta has had to do for herself since the dental plan ended. I opened the door. Rune's goggles were on the coat hook behind me, visible through the doorway, the blue silicone catching the hall light the way goggles catch light when they are hanging and not being worn, and the not being worn is the story of a trip that never happened. You pulled our dental coverage. I removed you from my plan. That is the same thing. It is not the same thing. Pulling coverage is what an insurance company does. Removing dependents is what a policyholder does. I am the policyholder. The plan is mine. The premium is mine. The $120 a month for 3 years is mine. And the coverage that paid for Dad's root canal and your crown and your cleanings was mine. The coverage was not free, Mom. The coverage was funded by the woman who cleans teeth. The woman you left at a water park gate with a 9-year-old who had goggles on his forehead and a grandmother's text that said he does not matter. Breck spoke from behind Desta. This is about the water park? Maris, you are pulling dental coverage over a water park? This is not about a water park, Dad. This is about a text that said we chose the kids who matter. This is about 8 wristbands that I paid for with money I earned cleaning teeth 50 hours a week. This is about 6 wristbands distributed and 2 left in a bag. This is about a 9-year-old boy who stood at a gate with goggles on his forehead and a towel over his shoulder, ready for a trip that his grandmother canceled by choosing the other grandchildren. This is about the word matter. Mom used it to describe which kids she chose. She chose the kids who matter, which means she chose the kids who do not matter. And the kid who does not matter is my son. And my son's name is Rune. And Rune heard that text. He does not need to take everything so personally. He is 9, Dad. He does not take things personally. He takes things literally. When his grandmother says we chose the kids who matter, a 9-year-old hears I do not matter. There is no other interpretation. There is no adult filter that softens the sentence. The sentence is what it is. And the sentence was sent in a group chat that Aunt Corinne and Aunt Peg were in, which means the sentence was not private. The sentence was public. And the public sentence said, my son does not matter. Desta stepped forward. I did not mean it that way. You texted it, Mom. You typed each word. You pressed send. You typed next time, raise a child who participates instead of one who watches. You told me to raise a different child. You told me the child I raised is wrong. In front of the family. In a text that is screenshotted and saved and forwarded to 22 people who can read it right now. I turned back to Breck. Let me give you the full number, Dad, since numbers are what this family understands. $120 a month in dental premiums for 3 years. $4,320. Your root canal, Dad, retail, $1,800. Out of pocket on my plan, 0. Mom's crown, $1,200 retail, 0 on my plan. 2 fillings for Dad, $400 each retail, 0 on my plan. Total dental services on my coverage, approximately $4,200 in procedures, plus the premiums, plus the $1,480 in wristbands, plus $2,800 in swim lessons for Wilder's kids, the swimmers. The grandchildren who matter, whose swimming I funded at $200 a month for 14 months. Plus $960 in car maintenance for a Jiffy Lube plan I prepaid for 2 years. I held up my phone. The receipt was on the screen. Total, $9,560 from the woman who cleans teeth to the family that told her son to wait by the gate. I paid for 8 wristbands. You used 6. The receipt has my name. The chargeback has yours. The coverage is gone. Desta's hand went to the doorframe. The steadying gesture of a woman whose dental plan and whose family structure and whose carefully curated version of events have all been terminated in the same week, and the termination was processed by the daughter she measured by salary and found insufficient. You cannot do this over a water park trip, Maris. We are your parents. I will include Rune in every future event. I will personally teach him to swim. Just put us back on the plan and drop the chargeback. This does not have to be permanent. You had 8 wristbands. You chose 6. The 2 you did not choose were your daughter and your grandson. Swim lessons do not fix that. Inclusion is not a reward you offer when the consequences arrive. Inclusion is the minimum. And the minimum was too much for you at the gate. Desta's eyes went to the goggles on the coat hook behind me. The goggles she had not seen at the water park because the goggles were outside the gate and Desta was inside the gate, and the gate was the distance between the grandmother who chose and the grandson who was not chosen. The goggles were blue, The goggles were small, and the goggles were the size of a 9-year-old's face, and the face had been at the gate, and the gate was closed. I am not doing this, Maris. You are overreacting. An overreaction is pulling dental coverage over a water park. What happened at the gate was not a water park decision, Mom. It was a family decision. You decided which grandchildren matter. You typed it. You sent it to a group chat with 6 people in it, and the decision has a cost. I looked at Breck. You stood in the parking lot and watched her hand out 6 wristbands and keep 2 in the bag. You watched your grandson stand at the gate with goggles on his forehead and a dinosaur towel over his shoulder. You did not say, give the boy his wristband. You did not say, Desta, there are 8, not 6. You walked through the gate, and you sat in a chair that I paid for, and you watched Wilder's kids go down the slides while your other grandson sat in my car in the parking lot with goggles still on his forehead because taking them off meant the trip was over, and the trip never started, and the never starting is on you. Breck looked at the ground looking that men do when the ground is easier to face than the daughter standing in the doorway, whose son they let stand at a gate while they walk through it wearing a wristband the daughter paid for. I stepped back into the doorway. This is the last dental premium, the last swim lesson payment, the last Jiffy Lube card, the last dollar from the woman who cleans teeth to the family that told her son he could wait by the gate. The coverage is terminated. The chargeback is processing. The screenshot is in a chat with 22 people. And the goggles on that hook belong to a boy who will swim when he is ready, not when his grandmother decides he has earned the right to matter. I closed the door. The click of the latch was the same click every door makes, but this click was different, because this click was a gate closing. And the gate was mine, and the closing was mine, and the woman on the other side knew what it felt like to be the one left outside. They left. Desta first, slow walk to the car, the walk of a woman whose dental appointment was rejected, and whose family chat has 22 readers, and whose daughter just closed a door, the same way Desta closed a gate. Breck behind her, eyes down, chin down, the posture of a man whose teeth are now his own problem, and whose grandson's question is still unanswered. The fallout was dental and financial and social, and it arrived in the order that invisible support collapses when the person providing it stops. First the coverage, then the payments, then the reputation. Breck's next dental appointment was 3 weeks later. A tooth that had been sensitive for 2 months needed evaluation. He called Bright Smiles to schedule. The receptionist checked the system. Mr. Egan, your coverage was terminated effective last Friday. We do not show an active plan. Breck asked how to get coverage reinstated. The receptionist said the termination was processed by the policyholder through the policyholder's employer, and that reinstatement would require the policyholder to re-add the dependents. The policyholder was his daughter. The daughter was not answering calls from the family that left her son at a gate. Breck went to the appointment anyway. Without coverage, the consultation was $150. The X-ray was $85. The diagnosis, a cracked molar requiring extraction and an implant. Retail cost for the extraction, $300. Retail cost for the implant, $3,200. Total, $3,500 for a procedure that would have cost $0 on his daughter's plan. The $3,500 was the cost of a tooth in a mouth that belonged to a man who watched his grandson stand at a gate with goggles on his forehead and did not say, give the boy his wristband. And the tooth was the first piece of the mouth that the daughter's coverage had been holding together. And the holding was over. Desta's crown follow-up was canceled. Without coverage, the follow-up was $400 at retail. Desta did not schedule it. The crown, installed on my plan at zero cost, would remain in her mouth without the follow-up, and the not following up was the dental version of the not calling, a woman choosing to avoid the system because the system now has a price, and the price is the daughter's absence. The swim lesson academy contacted Wilder the Tuesday after the cancellation. The payment had lapsed. Wilder asked who had been paying. The academy receptionist said the account was in the name of Maris Egan. The line went quiet for 4 seconds. 4 seconds is the duration of a brother understanding that the swimming his children do, the swimming his mother used to justify excluding Rune, the swimming that made his children the kids who matter, was funded by the sister whose son was told to wait by the gate. Wilder did not call me. Josette did not call me. The children were withdrawn from the competitive program because Wilder's $94 salary, the salary the family celebrates as proof of the successful branch, did not have room for $200 a month in swim coaching after the mortgage and the pool maintenance and the SUV payment and the lifestyle that Desta photographs and captions my water babies, and the water babies were swimming on their aunt's dime. And the dime was gone. The Jiffy Lube prepaid plan expired without renewal. Breck's next oil change was $79.99 at retail. The next tire rotation was $49.99. The annual inspection was $89.99. Each receipt was the shape of a daughter's support withdrawn, and the shape appeared every 8 weeks when the car needed service, and the service required a wallet, and the wallet no longer had a prepaid card inside it. The extended family WhatsApp continued to carry the screenshots. Aunt Corinne called Desta directly on day 8. The call lasted 6 minutes. Corinne told Desta that excluding a 9-year-old from a water park trip that his mother paid for was the cruelest thing I have seen a grandmother do. Desta said, "You do not know the full story." Corinne said, "The text is the full story. Desta, you typed it." We all read it. Desta hung up. The hanging up was the last call Desta received from the extended family for 3 weeks, because the screenshot was the story, and the story did not require Desta's version, because Desta's version was the screenshot. The following Saturday. Day 10. Splash Planet Water Park, New Braunfels, Texas, 30 minutes from San Antonio. The morning was warm and clear, 84 degrees. The kind of Texas Saturday that exists for water parks. The kind of day that a boy who is cautious about water can negotiate because the air is warm and the water is warm and the warm is on his side. Just Rune and me. Day passes. $45 each. $90 total. Not VIP. No cabana, no family, no wristband distribution at the gate. 2 passes purchased at the counter by the mother, one for the mother and one for the son. And the purchasing was simple, because the purchasing involved 2 people and 2 passes and 0 decisions about which child matters. Both passes went to the people they were bought for. Both wristbands went on the wrists they were intended for. The system worked because the system was 2 people and 2 passes, and the math was not complicated. Rune stood at the edge of the wave pool. He stood there for 2 minutes. The 2 minutes that Desta would have called whining. The 2 minutes that are not whining, but are a boy with a careful brain, measuring the depth and the temperature and the distance to the wall, and the number of people in the pool, and the angle of the waves and the position of the lifeguard, and the probability that the water will be okay. The measuring is not delay. The measuring is the intelligence, and the intelligence takes 2 minutes, and the 2 minutes are the most important minutes in a cautious boy's relationship with water, because the 2 minutes are where the decision lives, and the decision is the bravery, and the bravery is invisible to anyone who measures courage by the size of the splash. The goggles were in his hands. Blue silicone. He adjusted the strap. Once, twice, 3 times. The same 3 adjustments he made at Academy Sports the week before the trip, and at the water park gate when he was processing the exclusion, and at every moment when the goggles are the thing he can control, when the things around him are not controllable. He put them on. He pulled the strap tight against the back of his head. He looked at me. The look was not the look from the gate. The gate look was confusion and hurt and wet eyes and closed fists. This look was different. This look was a boy who has measured the water and made the decision, and the decision is yes. I am going in. I know you are. He stepped off the edge, not jumped, not dove. Stepped, the step of a cautious boy who enters water 1 foot at a time, because 1 foot at a time is how cautious people enter everything. And the entering is not slow. The entering is intentional. The water came to his chest. The wave pool pushed a small wave toward him, and he caught it with his body the way a boy catches a wave when the boy has decided that the water is not the enemy, and the wave is not the threat, and the catching is the choosing, and the choosing is his. He went under. He came up. The goggles held. The seal was tight. The water did not get in. And the boy who was told he sits on the edge and whines about the cold was in the wave pool at Splash Planet with his goggles on and his feet off the bottom and his arms moving, and the moving was not a cannonball. The moving was a boy swimming, quietly, in his own time, at his own pace, in water that held him the way the apartment pool had held him last August when he let go of his mother's hands and floated on his back and learned that the water was just water and the boy was just a boy and the boy could float. I was on a bench 10 feet from the pool edge, general admission, plastic chair, no cabana, no VIP section, no family choosing which children deserve the water. Watching my son swim, the goggles that were on his forehead at a gate where his grandmother said he does not matter were now in the water on his face at a pool where nobody chose against him, and the pool did not care which kids matter, because the water holds everyone the same, and the holding is not conditional, and the holding does not require a wristband or a cabana or a grandmother's permission. The holding just requires the water and the boy and the careful 2 minutes at the edge and then the step. The step was his, and the swimming was his, and the goggles were his, and the water was his, and the day was ours. Welcome back to Karma Unfolded. If this story reminded you that the person who pays for the wristband decides who wears it, and that a boy who takes 2 minutes at the edge is not whining but deciding, share it tonight. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me, has your family ever chosen the kids who matter and left yours at the gate? I will see you in the next one.